Welcome to Cardboard Conjecture. We're a podcast about board games where we have opinions and conclusions formed on the basis of incomplete information. This episode of Cardboard Conjecture is brought to you by these great Saskatoon businesses: Amazing Stories Comics on 8th Street, Dragon's Den Games on 8th Street, MrDiceGuy.com, and Breakout Escape Rooms on Faithful Avenue. Welcome to Cardboard Conjecture. I'm your host, Norm.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Ian.
And on this episode, we'll be talking about what we've been playing, thinking, and doing board games. And Ryan, what's our topic for today?
Well, I think we're just going to take a stroll down memory lane, and I think we're just going to talk about some of our memorable gaming experiences. Yeah, experiences should be the right word.
Cardboard Conjecture is proudly sponsored by Amazing Stories Comics on 8th Street in Saskatoon. They are the winner of the Joe Shuster Award for Best Comic Book Store in Canada, and they were also nominated in 2016 for the U.S. Eisner Spirit of Comics Retailer Award presented at Comic-Con. Amazing Stories' amazing collection of comic books, board games, puzzles, and collectibles can be found in their store or on their new online website. And we're back. This is Cardboard Conjecture, straight into thinking, doing, playing board games. Who wants to go first? I usually have to roll the dice or I take initiative, but Bitter's choice.
Should we go with the only person who played something?
Who played something? Yeah.
Who played something on the show notes?
Okay.
Sure. I'll talk about Wingspan because I've been playing Wingspan a lot lately. It seems like almost every time there's a game night, Wingspan will come out at some point. I really think that this is one of the big hits of recent years. I think it's going to be around for a long, long time. I love Wingspan.
Yeah, well, if the Board Game Geek Awards showed anything, it had a lot of love.
Yeah.
Well, I picked up a copy. That's how much.
Good for you.
Yay!
There's just something about the idea of you've got those 3 action tracks, and you can choose basically how you want to manage those 3 tracks depending on what birds you decide to buy. So you could have birds all in the wetlands, so you can make your game all about getting lots of bird cards or getting lots of food or whatever it is you choose. You can try to get all of them in one spot. You can try to space them out. Every bird does something just a little bit different. I think it's just an awesome game.
Yeah.
And we played with the European expansion. I finally broke down and got the European bird expansion. And so that adds a bunch of new birds, like probably half as many as came before. So there's a big stack of new bird cards in there. And they've got some new powers where, if you know Wingspan, it takes place over 4 rounds. And some of these birds have new powers that kick in at the end of rounds. And so that was kind of an interesting idea, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Now, do these cards intermingle, or do you have to pull some out to put some in, kind of thing?
Oh, just throw them all in.
Okay.
Just throw them all in. I do that for every game. It doesn't matter whether it's intermingles or not.
That's odd.
Yeah. Wingspan has been a game that if we remember back in my review, it grew on me, and I have to agree with Ian. It is a great design, and it was truly made for pretty much any type of gamer, whether you're brand new, whether you're experienced. There's just some sort of appeal behind that design process was pretty superb. To be your first published design, and to really like knock it out of the park, it really set the bar high.
Oh yeah. Well, what's the next one up? Mariposa. That's the one that's out now. So
yeah,
I've not done any research on that whatsoever. But yeah, Wingspan.
Yeah, that one's been selling like hotcakes too, Mariposas.
Yeah, the times I played Wingspan, I found it to be very clean, if that makes any sense, in the way that you play. Right?
Yeah, it's simple and elegant.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think every few years we get like these landmark games, right? Like a few years ago it was Code Names or Terraforming Mars, like these huge games that stick around for a while. And I think Wingspan is the next one. Like I think this is the sticker.
They drop a good anchor, yeah, for sure.
This is a big landmark game, I think.
Jeff brought in like I think he has like 30 copies of the stories all stocked up for Christmas time.
Yeah,
nice.
Cool. Well, speaking of purchasing games from like Jeff and so on and so forth, I have this term that I use when you just get the acquisition disorder itch, and you're trying to find that rarity. I call it a unicorn hunt. I don't mean to offend the Mythical Creature Society of Protection, but yeah. So often it's like I had a unicorn hunt and I found Macau, right? And so I've got a few games that I'm quite content. I think part of the pleasure of the game was the unicorn hunt, and I acquired two of my rare checklist games. One was Rococo, and the other one was Bruges with the expansion. Now, I would not have had this opportunity to acquire this if not for the brilliant idea of Ryan. You came up with this idea for the Facebook page to have an online board game garage sale. And thank you so much, Jason, for having these copies for me to acquire. And so, yeah, Ryan, tell me, I want you to contribute to where this idea came up, because it's awesome. And it's still on there. So if there's anybody who is like, oh, just go Facebook, Bridge City Board Gamers Community, Saskatoon, and there's some people selling their board games.
Yeah, I don't even know why I decided to come, because I had amazing stories. Every now and then Jeff would have these
the tables,
tables, and I always called them the Gamers Garage Sale because we like alliteration on the show for some reason. But and I said, well, we're probably not going to end up having one of these for quite some time because COVID and everything like that. Yeah. So I decided, well, why don't everybody just sell their games from the comfort of their own homes? I always encourage people on the Facebook group that you can sell games on the group. Yeah. And so I decided, hey, let's just dedicate this one weekend. Everybody, if you got stuff for sale or trade, throw it up there.
Yeah. Well,
me expecting me and probably like 3 other guys are going to put some stuff up on the page. That's all I was. And we had posts, like tons.
Yeah. Like games. How many, you're kind of not like specifically tracking, but how many contributors? I think I was seeing like close to 10.
I think we had about like 12, 13 people contributing. I think there was end up being like over like 100 different games available.
Yeah. I bought, like I said, I bought a couple, and I'm still going to put some on. So if there's anybody who's out there who's thinking about it, I'm sure you could still post some stuff. I'm going to post some stuff. And there's still a lot of really cool stuff available. Like I think Ryan still has a showroom of Kickstarter new and yeah, it's like the shopping network, Ryan style.
I actually just sold one of those. I just sold my Lords of Hellas bundle.
Yeah, like I'm just clicking here, and Shadows over Normandy, Mexico,
there's tons of stuff out there.
Oh yeah, so
lots of really good games too.
Yeah, like yeah, I didn't see one Monopoly. I'm so proud of the community. I'm gonna cry for a second here. So yeah, that's my little kind of section of thinking, playing, doing is our unicorn hunting at our garage sale. So yeah,
cool.
Ryan. Okay. I can't even pronounce this title that you
got. I'll do my best, because so what I've been thinking about is lately it just came across my Twitter feed and some of the news feeds on Board Game Geek, is that the Jogo do Ano 2020 award, which is the Portugal Game of the Year award. The nominees were released, and this has been one that I've paid attention to in the past, only because the Jogo do Ano always highlights kind of like a more like heavy. It awards usually to like a heavy, complex type of game, where it's usually a more complex type title that ends up being nominated and usually winning. Much different than say the Board Game Geek Awards or the Dice Tower Awards, or even like say the Spiel and the Kenner Spiel.
Yeah,
these tend to be a little bit heavier. So like I'll highlight like this year's nominees are Maracaibo, Crystal Palace, Pipeline, Cooper Island, and Barrage.
Okay,
so go ahead, Ian.
Brian, I love how your voice just turned into like an awards announcer at that point.
I don't know. It just happened.
It was totally an award show thing.
Yeah,
and best
like
actor,
Oscars,
and best supporting actor. No, I was going to jump in and say there's been a Capstone sponsored event on.
So four of those games, Maracaibo, Crystal Palace, Pipeline, Cooper Island, all were published by Capstone Games the past years, and Barrage was published by Cranio. Now, I actually have played all 5 of these games, which is actually usually something that usually doesn't happen. I usually have played all of them. And yeah, they're all fairly complex games. Like you guys played Maracaibo. I know that for sure.
Yeah.
And
I've not played any of the other ones though. Barrage is I've not played Barrage, but I've played Newton by the same designers, and I absolutely love the way that the brains that created that game. So that appeals to me.
Yeah, Barrage is a much I kind of call it a much heavier power grid kind of thing. It's a very economic. But anyways, like I'm gonna just kind of highlight. If people don't know the Jogo do Ano, here are some of them in the past winners. I kind of put them on here.
Here we go.
So Root in 2019 won it. A fairly complex game. Lisboa of Vital Lacerda game won it in 2018. Great Western Trail in 2017, Mombasa in 2016, La Granja in 2015.
Yeah.
And then in the past too, like I don't have the years by, but Keyflower, Nations, Oren Labora, Trois, Agricola.
That's a pretty solid lineup.
Yeah, that's a good list.
It's definitely a great list. And these games are all fairly complex in their own regards.
I mean, it's missing Terra Mystica, but
I could argue
it'd be perfect.
Well, you know what?
You can make an argument for Terra Mystica should have been on this list. I can't remember which year that one. It was nominated. Now I don't have the year which one beat it out.
That would be who what was the same year kind of thing. So
yeah. So I guess I'll go on record here. Let's just see here. I've played them all, and if I look at the past winners, it's way too hard. I don't know I'll probably put my money on Maracaibo.
Winning. Yeah.
This because a couple Alexander Pfister games have already won this. Great Western Trail in Mombasa. Maracaibo probably is in about all those other games kind of complexity and weight. Maybe Pipeline kind of fits kind of like the same. Yeah. Crystal Palace, Cooper Island, and Barrage are very, very heavy games.
Well, Pipeline had early hype, but then it settled down because I think just the distance between release and now. But
I don't know. So if you never knew about the Jogo do Ano before, now hopefully you do. And this is usually one that I always, because it's always a heavy, complex game.
Well, and I'm just looking at the solid lineup of like this is a reputable. If this is just the list of like award winners, this is a pretty good metric, at least for my tastes of pay attention to kind of thing.
Yeah. They're all So my prediction this year, I predict Maracaibo. If you want to learn more about Maracaibo, you can listen to our past episode.
Yeah. I'm gonna guess Barrage. That's who I'm guessing.
Cool. Yeah, there's an argument for Barrage too. There's an argument for all of these. There's an argument for all of them. But yeah,
I mean, I've only played Maracaibo and I really liked it. So I mean, but I've heard interesting takes on Cooper Island as well. Everyone's saying it's a very quiet thinker kind of game.
Yeah. Same thing with Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace is a great dice worker placement game where you actually don't even roll the dice. You just set the values to whatever you want. But then you also have to, but you have to pay for whatever you set them to.
Isn't that how Ryan teaches us how he plays the game all the time?
I just set them however I want. Yeah. Ryan's cheating.
This episode of Cardboard Conjecture is proudly sponsored by Dragon's Den Games, located in the Louis VIII Mall on 8th Street in Saskatoon. Swing by Dragon's Den Games and let Darren, Al, and the awesome staff help you out in search for great board games, role-playing games, miniature systems, and all of the related accessories. Be a part of their gaming communities that have scheduled events in their great gaming area. Dragon's Den Games, Louis VIII Mall on 8th Street in Saskatoon. And welcome back to Cardboard Conjecture. It's topic of interest time, and the topic of interest, as mentioned by Ryan, are memorable gaming experiences. How do you want to do this? Should we take like one story each and just rotate, kind of like a good worker placement game?
Yeah, I think so. Sure, we can do that. Yeah, and I like how you said straight. This is kind of going to be turned into story time.
It is totally going to be story time because I have this feeling that that's where experience lies, is within the narrative, right? That's the only reason. At least how I remember things is if it's wrapped around a good story, I'll get the details down.
Sure.
So
who wants to kick it off?
Ian, would you like honors?
Yeah, I can.
There you go.
So I was thinking about this. I don't know. We'll see how radio friendly these stories are, I guess. I mean, I didn't mean it like that. I meant I don't know how interesting they're going to come off, I guess, but we'll see.
Well, you know what? CBC has a lot of stuff, so don't worry.
So I was thinking, like, what are some times of playing board games that I just remember really well? And then I kind of thought, there's almost two categories, right? There's things that are memorable inside the game itself, with things that happen in the game. And then there's the other aspect, which is what's happening outside the game, right? Who you're playing with, what the situation is. And I think it's that second category that tend to make up most of these. Did you guys find that when you were kind of going through?
Yeah, if you kind of take a look at my list, and two of mine that I listed, I just thought of another one that I'll probably replace with one of these others. But yeah, two of mine, yeah, it's the outside aspect.
Yeah,
that you say.
Yeah. So here's an example, and this is going way back. This is going back to high school. So at our high school, we had tables up in the lobby, right, where kids would go and kind of hang out. Not really a student lounge, but that's just what they would do. And so one day, somebody brought a copy of Monopoly, Star Wars Monopoly specifically, because that was the big rage back then. And they set it up, and because they had first period open, right, they had a spare, and so found some people to play with. And then what ended up happening is, of course, they come to the end of the period and had to go to class. And so then we kind of come by and say, oh, you guys are playing Monopoly. I'm like, yeah, but we got to go to class. So why don't you play for me? So then we'd sit down, and suddenly we're playing during our spare periods. And then we get up and somebody else would tag us out. and so we had a whole school day just playing one game of Monopoly, but with like a dozen different players that would just keep tapping in and out depending on who had class or not. It was awesome.
You guys created the cooperative gaming experience before it even was like on the map, man.
I guess so.
Cool.
And so who won?
Oh, geez, who knows?
How do you even? I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. Yeah, that's actually really kind of cool that a whole bunch of different people at different times.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing that comes to mind for me immediately is that it could not have ever happened if not for the fact that everybody knows how to play that game or the fundamentals of playing that game.
That's very true. Yeah. Yeah, because
Right?
there's no teaching involved. Everyone
No.
knows Monopoly.
Yeah.
You just play Monopoly.
With the auction rules.
Oh, who remembers? Oh no, nobody plays with that rule, Ryan.
Yeah. That would be like somebody sitting down at a small town cafe with an ongoing cribbage game.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah. Cool.
So I'm starting off with an early one.
Okay.
Well, I can jump in on mine, and I guess one of my most memorable gaming experiences was the time that I was introduced to modern. I'll call them modern board games. Like we played Risk and we played Monopoly at family gatherings, and we played all these other types of game, Uno and stuff like that. But I always like telling this story. And I don't think I ever told this story actually on the air here, but it was actually Ian that introduced. I always say Ian introduced me to modern board games, and this is actually true. So it was back when.
And Jen still is mad at me for that.
Neener.
So Jen and I were dating at the time. It was very early in our dating, and Jen had mentioned that she invited a couple friends over. Later, Ian and Kim. Kim is Ian's wife, and she said, "Well, they're going to come over, and we're going to play some board games." And of course, my initial reaction was, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to sit here with two people that I don't know, and we're probably going to play like Monopoly, and we're going to play Risk, or we're going to play the game of life, or something along these lines." And I'm like, "Okay, I love you, so let's try it." And so in walks Ian and Kim, and Ian's got these games, a bag of games, and they're things that I have not seen before. And he continues to pull out Alhambra. Alhambra was the first game that he set up and that we were going to play together. I don't even know if Ian had any knowledge of who I was or what kind of person I was ahead of time. And so I'm like, what the heck is this? This is something that I have not even remotely heard of. I didn't even know these types of things existed outside of Monopoly, Risk, and stuff like that. And so Ian continues with the teach, which was very elegant. He knows how to teach a game. I can give him that credit.
It's like you have a degree in it or something.
And we started playing. And then afterwards, after we play, I don't even remember who won that game. It doesn't even matter because I was just so taken in that I was like, this is actually kind of cool. And Ian's like, oh yeah, and I've got like, probably at the time he's like, oh, I've got like 100 type of games I'm a board game collector, or I'm a board game player, and so I have a whole bunch of these different types of things. I'm like, whoa, there's like more than like one of these things.
say what?
Yeah, and then I think like on a later time, that's when he introduced me to Catan, and then we played Catan, and it spiraled afterwards, because after that one I was like, oh, that was a really fun game. So then I went out and bought Alhambra after that, and Jen and I would play, and then every time that Ian would introduce me a new game, I would go and buy it.
Yeah, you're like the toddler that touches the water with their toes and then just jumps into the deep end. That's what you did.
Exactly. And then all of a sudden I discovered like Will Wheaton's Tabletop, and I
was just gonna say YouTube is a bad rabbit hole to go down.
Yeah, and I discovered what Board Game Geek was, and so Ian tapped the junkie vein. He was my dealer at that time.
And the internet opened up the stream.
And then so my most memorable was playing that game of Alhambra, even though I still have no idea who won it, but it was just
probably me.
Probably. Jen wins that game like all the time.
Actually, that's probably Jen.
But it was just so cool, and then we just had these conversations afterwards. And then Ian and I became friends. And Jen's like, wow, you're better friends with Ian than I ever have been. Because you guys played on the same Ultimate Frisbee team.
Right. Yeah.
That's kind of like how you guys kind of knew each other and stuff like that. So,
well, her and my wife have known each other for a long time.
Right. That's right. So
Cool.
That was one of my most memorable. Was the first time I played a modern, quote unquote, modern board game, which was Alhambra, and it's still probably one of our favorite games that we play.
Nice.
Okay. Well, I think mine rings in with Ian's idea of it being all kind of globally tied together. Because mine, one of my first memorable gaming experiences is playing Ticket to Ride with the newly created Tabletop Game Night, which was a night with myself and my cousins. And to start off, we have to establish the context of the characters of this colorful story. I grew up with three cousins, as in a good LePage family. It's 6 generations of just boys. So we basically, it was basically Dumb and Dumber, the club pack. And so back in those times, we're always together because our dads were brothers. So if we were doing anything, it was because they were doing something. So we were there. We grew up together. We fought together. We played games together. We played board games together. And like the stuff from back then, Monopoly, Careers, Payday, Dealer's Choice. Do you remember that car game where you're a car Dealer's Choice?
Yeah. I think I
yeah, it's like, I want to get that Corvette, right? I remember that one. And of course,
yeah,
all the conflicts and all the fights, right? I mean, it was your typical throw 4 boys in a room and just let them be unsupervised, which was a bad parenting choice. So not that I was ever new to board games, but I had a group of guys that we played board games for the last 24 years. But it was always the risk and the card games and the poker, but never the Euro stuff. So I thought to myself that and the families, right? I mean, as life goes, you go to university, you have jobs, you basically just kind of grow apart. And I thought it would be nice that if we had an opportunity to get together and bring back this chaotic brotherhood or pack of wolves kind of thing that we had as like a brotherhood thing, right? So I did my research. I found this cool game, Ticket to Ride, and where did I see it the first time? At the bookstores in town. They had these big, and it was the box cover that appealed to me. I saw this really cool display that drew me, and I started researching. So I picked this up, learned it. I did the teach, and if not for that game being so, I mean, we used the term before, elegant, easy to teach, easy to play, and fun, just a awesome game, right? But this was our first time as a group playing it. And I think what was the most impressive thing that I loved about that game was seeing what it did to us and turning us all back into our younger selves. And hearing and like the classic, I wrote down some classic lines that I think are classic with everybody is from the younger days. Like, you're always taking forever, hurry up and do something, or it's oh, is it my turn? Or, hey, you didn't say that. I would have done something different if you would have told me that was part of the rules, right? All of that stuff came back, which would usually drive me nuts. But because it was who I grew up with, I sat back and had a very cool nostalgic moment and thought, this is so wonderful. I'm just loving. And again, like you just said before, I have no idea who won, but it was just that sit back and soak up the moment and go, I'm digging this. This is what I like about board games.
That's awesome.
And I used to actually come to those Wednesday night.
You did. You got to experience the supper at the table.
Yeah, and those guys, they were so fun. it was always so you say the camaraderie that you guys had and the back and forths. I'm going to jump in. One of my most memorable things about that group was when I did the teach of Stone Age, and we played Stone Age that one night.
No, yeah.
And I had told you guys because you've played around with some recording of it and stuff like that, and so I made sure that make sure you pay attention to the cards. That's going to be where you're going to score a lot of points at the end of the game. And I was like, at the end of the game came, and I was like, so we're adding up scores, and no one gained any cards, and I gained all the cards, so I win the game. And the guy's like, well, you didn't tell us about the cards and what they were going to do, but you recorded the session, Norm. And they all went back and watched
it back.
Like,
he did.
Oh yeah, we weren't paying attention when.
But he didn't remind us though. He is like, have you ever experienced that from Ryan before? I don't think Maracaibo. I don't think Ryan ever behaved that way. No, I'm joking. Yeah. So yeah, no, you got to experience the LePage clan at its best, man. It's like it's if nobody's listening to me, I'll turn up the volume. Right.
Oh, so good.
So that was mine. It was a ticket to ride with the cousins, which is now, I mean, it's like 3-4 years now that we regularly have our Wednesday nights. Yeah.
Right.
Cool.
That's awesome.
This episode is proudly supported by the amazing team at Breakout Escape and Board Game Lounge right here in Saskatoon. Using industry-leading technology, Breakout Escape's escape rooms are all 100% uniquely designed by the team, ensuring their patrons have maximum fun while staying safe. As well, they are a fully licensed board game lounge with over 400 titles to select from to ensure fun for every gamer, new and experienced. Be sure to check them out at breakoutsask.com. At Breakout Escapes and Game Lounge, they believe that life is more fun when you play games.
Okay, so I'm going to swing to trying to think of some things from in-game, right? And then maybe my next one, I'll go back to out-of-game. So I've got some quick ones I'll just rattle off. So one thing is, there's small things like the time I made 2 cities at once in Terra Mystica, or playing Dominion once. I didn't do this, but my friend did. He got if you don't Dominion, this is insane. He got one turn, he got 40 points, which is like, you're usually fighting to get 8 points in a hand in Dominion. That's your goal. And he managed to had the right cards, which is like, if you know Dominion, it's like King's Court. He did a King's Court on a King's Court, plus a whole bunch of other stuff. He got 40 points in one play. It was insane.
And then there's things like cribbage, man.
And then, there's fun little stories like playing Merchants and Marauders. And I'd go and attack the Spanish gold ship and then sink. And then the next turn I'd get a new ship. And then I go fight some missionaries because I'm like, they're missionaries. And then they also sank my ship. And so I lost like 2 ships in 2 turns, things like that.
Bunch of clergy put your boat down?
Yeah, they did. And my friends still make fun of me for that. Pandemic, we once got 9 outbreaks in one turn. It was a continuous string of outbreaks. So like one led to the other, and they just chained. That one was an epic loss.
These are sounding like stories of I got beat up over there, and see that corner by the store. I got beat up over there, and
they're my board game bloopers. Yep. And then, of course, I do need to mention my fantastically awful game of Eclipse. So
you mentioned this one in the past.
Yeah. So Eclipse is a pretty big game that we play quite a bit. Like it comes out actually quite often. And this particular game, I was just getting hammered by the other players. We were playing a game of 4, and I just couldn't get anything going. The one guy had built up his military a lot, and he kept pounding on me. The other 2 guys were kind of leaving each other alone and leaving him alone. So really, I was just a punching bag. And at the end of the game, they were getting 30 some points each, and I had 8. Which, when you think about it, you start with a certain number of points when the game starts. So I think I have a net total of 2 points from the whole game. And it's like the most epic loss of Eclipse that I think anyone has probably ever had. But we still laugh about that a lot.
That's hilarious.
That is a good one. There's also the one where you try in Shadows over Camelot, try to convince me that I couldn't read.
Yep. So Shadows of the Camelot, it's a
this
co-op
is a
game.
bloopers reel, isn't it?
Yeah. This one was good. This was a shining moment for me. Not so much for Ryan. So it's a game with a traitor, right? So you can have a traitor who's trying to secretly work against everybody. And in Shadows of Camelot, you have to throw down cards and try to beat certain challenges. So the cards will be numbered, and you've got to try to defeat the Black Knight or whatever it is. And so I decided, how did that work, Ryan? Do you remember how it worked?
So you were the traitor, and you had placed down, because there's a mechanic where if you draw a card, you can place it face down,
right? Yeah,
into the deck. And you told us, I think it was Lane. Lane was also playing at this game. You told us that it was a certain number. I can't remember.
I think I said it was a 1, right?
Yes, you did. Yes. And then we went to reveal that location, and there was no 1s. I think there was like a 7.
There was a 7. Yeah,
there's 7 instead.
You
and
lied.
I kind of noticed this, and I told Lane, I was like, I think Ian lied when he put the number. There's no 1s there. Lane was like, all right, I don't remember this and everything. Let's just play the game. I was like, okay, well, that sounds like traitor talk. But I was like, but Ian lied of what he put into the pile and.
But the best part is I tried to pawn it off on Ryan, saying you read the cards wrong. You can't see the difference between a 7 and a 1, even though I know perfectly well exactly what I had played. And I think I actually accused you of being the traitor, didn't I?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because then you could switch the swords over because it was a wrong accusation.
Yeah, and I think it worked.
Yeah, I remember that one because Ryan couldn't read. But we also have Norm and I have a Shadows over Camelot story too.
Well, we could save that for another time because I want to hear about your Twilight Imperium story.
Yes. I really, Adam, if you listen to the show, I apologize that I'm going to say the story at your expense. So
here's the funny part. I didn't know which of the games that you did this in that you're more memorable of.
I know. So, okay. So people may know Twilight Imperium 4th edition is one of my favorite games. We would hold these days. We would have days at Amazing Stories. We'd have a couple games going in the basement. We'd start at 10 a.m., go till like 4, 5, or 6 o'clock at night, and we'd be playing Twilight Imperium. And some of these games this was a session where everybody at the table that we were playing with, we were playing a 5-player game, and everybody had played the game. So this was a rare circumstance that everybody already knew how to play the game. So there was actually no teaching involved. And we all kind of had our strategies in place. I can't remember exactly which faction I was at this particular game, but all I did know is that Adam was my neighbor, and we had an alliance pretty much the whole I let him do stuff and he let me do stuff, and we were trading left, right, and center. Everything was doing good and everything. And coming into the later rounds, I was scoring some points, and Adam was also scoring some points. And I realized at one point in time, I was 1 point away from winning, and I think Adam was also 1 point away from winning. And I saw that I had a secret objective. I had not fulfilled it yet. And the best opportunity for me to fulfill this objective was that I needed to bombard somebody's system. And so,
And I was looking around, and there's no one close to me to bombard, but Adam's ships and planets were right next door to mine. And I was like, okay, Adam, we've had this alliance this whole game, so I'm just gonna let's go over there and let's take out. And I think it was Jeff. Let's go out over there and take out Jeff. He's starting to kind of creep up in the points. And Adam agreed. Yeah, okay, let's go over there. And so I said, so I need to pass through your system. You're gonna let me pass through your system? Yeah. No, that's fine. Awesome. I go to pass through the system, and then I attack him, and I drop a bombardment.
Yeah, you dropped a bombardment, all right.
And he's like, what are you doing? And I was like, I said, sorry about this, man. So we do this. And he's like, what? He's like, what the heck is going on?
We could do this the easy way or the hard way.
And so like at the end of this bombardment step, I wipe out all of his troops on this one planet. He's like, well, what the hell did that accomplish? I was like, my secret objective. I slam it down on the table and gives me 1 point, and I go to victory. He's like, you used me the entire game for this. I'm like, I said the perfect opportunity. So like now I'm famous at Amazing Stories, Twilight Imperium. I cannot have an alliance ever again. No one, I play the game pretty much by myself because no one will align with me because of this. And it trickled over into other games. Like later on, we did.
Oh, it got meta huge.
Because then there was like weeks later, we did a tabletop day. We played Rising Sun. Well, no one would make an alliance with me during Rising Sun at all because they heard about what happened at Twilight Imperium.
You got a legend hooked up to that one, man.
So, during Twilight Imperium, me backstabbing Adam to victory. That was a pretty memorable experience.
Sounds to me like you had to. It was set up perfectly.
It was so set up, and I was like, "Oh, Adam, I'm like." For a while there, Adam didn't talk to me.
He'll the podcast will be sending Adam a sympathy card.
But we're good friends.
With a coupon,
yeah. Because we co-backed the Kickstarter for the new Steampunk Rally game that's coming out from Roxley. Him and I did a split shipping on that one. And so cool. we're still good friends. And he sent me a message about the new CMON that I think it was Onk was a new CMON. He asked me if I wanted to get in on the late pledge. So we're still friends. Or he's meta playing me for the next time we play Twilight Imperium.
Well, mine was I think we were all present for this one, and I put a nice title on this one, and it's called "Keep That Cheap Wine Away From Me," because
a good one.
It's based around, and this is just for Ian, Viticulture Essentials Edition, Tuscany Expansion, Visitors on the Moor subtitle.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah,
3 sets of colons.
So there was myself, Jeff, Ryan, Ian, and was it just a 4-player, or did we have a 5th? I can't even remember.
I can't remember if Dave was there or not.
I think it was just 4 of us, right?
Yeah.
Because I remember Ryan was sitting diagonally away from me, always being vocal and unpleased about his initiative order placement in the game. So we played Viticulture with the Tusky expansion and the little area control map on the bottom left part. I've played this game a ton of times. I love this game so much. Successful at times, I suck at times, I'm okay at times. I put in my notes here, and sometimes the game just turns straight to vinegar, but I love it because every time I play, I want to try something new, something different. I'm always checking the engine. Like, how can this engine hum, right? So that's what I love about this game, is that whole variable choices with the cards, the way that you use your worker placement with that whole connectivity, right? The cogs in this machine. Now, sometimes the combinations work and the timing works and that engine sounds like a Porsche. And sometimes it sounds like a Russian Lada? Is that the bad? This game kind of it started out okay. And what I love about the Tuscany expansion is that when you get to choose the initiative order, there are benefits. If you want to go early, then you're not going to get the same juicy benefits as if you go later in the initiative, right? But you obviously miss out on your opportunity to get the bonuses with all these little worker placement areas. For some reason, I ended up Ian was sitting to the right of me, and I was never getting what I needed, never, right? So I thought, why am I fighting it? So like I said before, I like to find all these little creative ways. So if no one was going to let me plant any damn plants, then I was just going to go to the Costco and trade for some wine mush in a bag and put it straight into my crusher pad. So that's what I did. Right. I spent the whole game riding the bonus track on what I could get off of a later initiative, and then go to trade it. Sometimes I'd get the bonus. I'm like getting 2 for the price of nobody wanted to, until what was it, like halfway through the game, where Ryan goes, "You haven't planted a damn plant, and look at all the wine you're." I'm like, baby, God love the Costco mush in a bag strategy, right? I stayed on that strategy the whole game, and even like in my notes it says, even when the planting option was available to me, I was like, I don't have any cards. I completely took a left turn off of that whole planting strategy and thought, let's explore this. Even if it hits a dead end, even if it sucks, even if I lose the game, to me it was like, this is something curious. This is something that's kind of interestingly happening and developing into a used parts engine, I guess you want to call it. Up until the point where we're getting close to the end of the game, and Ian's sitting opposite me, and it was like I paid tickets to the show, because it was getting so tense. And like I said, I had nothing really invested, because I thought I was doing this even if it hit a brick wall. And all of a sudden I'm like challenging first place, and I'm pushing on the gas. And I think at one point I passed you, and all of a sudden you were getting out of it was like you were up and down in your chair and you're checking your cards. And of course, Ryan knows me. I'm all about the pull the levers, push the buttons and see what happens kind of thing, right? And then surprised at hey, I didn't know that would happen, right? And long story short, we get to the end of the game and I lost by 1 point. But the whole time, that last 5 minutes, this was an ending that got you out of the chair pacing back and forth. And I was like,
yep,
yeah, this is kind of fun. I didn't think and I'm thinking to myself, am I going, you know what, Ian, I didn't think this was going to work either.
And viticulture it might be the game I'm best at, because I win at that a lot, and so I was not liking you were challenging me on it at all.
But this, I think what was making you just like even irked more was the strategy was so unorthodox that you were like, how are you doing this? Costco mush in a bag, baby. And Ryan sitting diagonally to me going, you guys both suck, man. I'm like one move behind everybody.
Come on, Ryan. Say that's my tagline for whenever I play viticulture, is that I'm always one round behind everybody all the time. I love viticulture. I don't think I've ever even come second place at best ever at viticulture, but it's just so unique. And I've tried to employ Norm's strategy after I saw that one, and it's viable. It's definitely viable. But if people catch on early enough, then they kind of just like, then you become fall behind one turn again.
So Costco mush in a bag. That was explore strategy and be absolutely surprised and entertained too at the stressful ending.
Yeah, it's kind of cool because when you're talking this story, there was a time just recently too, we played Zolkin on Board Game Arena, that I employed a strategy that I never tried before, which was the not feed your workers strategy. And I think it was in that game I was playing with Ian and Lane, and I think I had racked up something like negative 28 points for not feeding my workers. But then I still ended up scoring like 80 some points overall and Ian's like, did you even feed your workers this game? I'm like, nope. I just I went corn poor. I did not have any corn, but I laid heavy on the crystal skulls and temple tracks, and
That was very pharaoh of you.
kind of like a surpriser. But it was just time I was like, I'm going to try this and see if it works, and that time it did.
Cool.
And so yeah, I like the trying the different strategies.
This episode is proudly supported by Mr. Dice Guy online board game retailer located right here in Saskatoon. Mr. Dice Guy is always stocking the hot new titles, as well as restocking all-time favorites. They even have a ding and dent section for previously played titles. They offer free shipping across Canada on all orders over $200 or free local pickup if you're in the Saskatoon area. Check them out at MrDiceGuy.com. Saskatoon's Mr. Nice Guy is Mr. Dice Guy.
Yeah. Ian, you got a third one, man?
For sure. So one thing that board games, of course, are great at is having something to do with your friends, right? And building these memories with your friends and about your friends. And we've been like playing games for 12-ish years, probably, ever since we discovered Settlers of Catan and played it every Saturday for I don't even know how long. But one that really sticks out to me is a game of Thrones. So if you've played Game of Thrones before, it's a war game, and it's very heavily built on alliances, just like Twilight Imperium, right?
Meaning that it wrecks relationships.
Yeah. And I'm not going to the alliance route. That doesn't really have part to do with this story. But in this game, you're playing leaders with your armies, right? So if you're the Stark army, you'll have leaders like Robb Stark and Sansa Stark and all the characters, right? And some are stronger than others. But once you've played a leader, you don't get it back until you've played all of your other leaders, right? Then you get your hand of cards back. Norm, you know Kemet, so it's sort of like Kemet in that regard.
Yeah.
Right? So you play a card and then it's gone until you get it back again.
Until it cycles.
Yeah. So this was a 4-player game, and 2 of my friends had gotten into a battle. And they both had a hand of cards and were trying to figure out who to play. And so my friend Brett and my friend Jordan were the 2 friends in this battle. And Brett's saying, okay, I want to see what leaders you have left in your hand of cards, right? And Jordan's like, I am not showing you who I've got in my hand of cards.
That already sounds like it's going down the wrong path.
Now, the great thing about this is that the story is so rooted in the personalities of these 2 friends of mine. Absolutely. So my friend Brett is very rules oriented, right? He wants to know all the rules of the game. He sticks by those rules of the game. It really bugs him when I screw up the rules when I'm teaching games, but so he's well aware that this is well within his right, just because it should be public information what cards have been played and what haven't. But Jordan is very stubborn. He was a very stubborn guy, and he was not going to back down.
Youngest child.
He was not going to back down to Brett. And so, I mean, they're both pretty stubborn, actually. So they just started arguing and fighting. And then they eventually got to the point where they were yelling at each other. Me and the other guy are just kind of sitting back like, what is going to happen here? It's like, you have to show me those cards. I am not showing you anything. And they were like 2 boulders that rolling towards each other that would not get out of each other's way.
As you guys are slowly grabbing the edges of the table.
Yeah. I don't even remember how it turned out or who ended up backing down, but yeah, I won't forget that.
All right. Tension.
That I can see that happening.
Yeah.
I can see that happening.
Near table flip moments are they usually register in the memory unit.
And the thing is that I know Jordan didn't really care, but he just loved like
It was a
getting under
button.
Brett's skin, right? Like you could tell that he was having a blast just getting under Brett's skin. I'm pretty sure Brett won eventually because he usually does. He's a lawyer and he knows how to finagle a situation like that. But
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. I don't think he's a good negotiator if he hasn't tried to put my kids to bed. All right, I'll bring you guys a helicopter and a boat. Just close the lights down. No. Yeah. Cool. So, Ryan.
Okay. I've been going back and forth whether or not I want to do another in-game, but I don't think this would be a podcast without me mentioning my lovely wife Jen and playing so Jen's been, for the most of our relationship, the very reluctant gamer, if I want to put it in that regards. She kind of just amuses me every now and then just by saying, oh, I want to play this game, I want to try this out, and she kind of just goes along with the flow and everything like that. And Jen won't let on, but I think I've turned her into a gamer. And this kind of turned around when we played just a couple years ago. We played Charterstone. So I got a copy of Charterstone. We pulled it out. Alex wasn't born yet, so this is already about almost 3 years ago now. I think was when Charterstone came out. Regan was very young, but over the Christmas break, I said, "We're gonna let's try to play this campaign legacy style game." And she was just like, oh, okay, what is a legacy game? For first off, she was like saying, oh, is that kind of like that pandemic thing that you and Ian kind of play every now and then? And I said, yeah, but pandemic is working together. Charterstone is more competitive. Well, then that kind of got her in. Oh, okay, we're not working together. I can beat you at something. And so I was like, yeah, okay, kind of like that. And this was a great time because Charterstone is the legacy game, takes place over, I think it's 12 games. We'll play out the whole story. And we played it 12 games in 12 nights.
I remember this. Yes.
Yeah. And so it was something about it that I don't know. I just kind of saw the gleam in her eyes. She's like, sometimes it's like, I'm trying to put Regan to bed and she's setting up the game. Like I set up, I set up the game. That's my thing. But she's like, no, we're gonna try to play 2 games tonight. Type deal.
Nice.
So I had her hooked on Charterstone, and so that was very memorable in my experiences. That was kind of like when she turned that first click, because then after that we played Time Stories, and that was another thing. Time Stories can take sometimes multiple sessions in order to play through a whole scenario. And we did it. We did it again. We did one. I think we did the core box in like 3 nights. But there was one day we had the kids over at grandparents' house, and we played one whole Time Stories scenario in one whole day. It was fantastic. And now we're reliving the same thing now with Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion. We're kind of doing the same thing where it's just like when she finds the opportunity, she's like, we got to go back that. My character is almost at level 3, so we've got to get him up. We've got to get him up there. And so she's like, stop beating up the bad guys, because I want to beat up the bad guys so my guy can. So I'm like, who are you?
Yeah. Did I walk into the wrong house? Cool.
So then I mentioned, I'm like, have you heard of Dungeons and Dragons? She's like, no, I'm not playing that. She's like, this is about as nerdy as I'm going to go as this Gloomhaven thing. I said, well, that's a pretty nerdy thing. That's a good place to be at.
But you know, it's a comfortable game to sit into. Absolutely.
So yeah, so Jen's hooked onto these like kind of like these experience games. Like you have to play them multiple times, and they tell a story.
I was going to say the narrative. She's hooked on narrative, man.
She's hooked on the narrative storytelling type games.
Cool.
Nice. I will say that there were a whole bunch of legacy game memories that I decided to leave, right? maybe we'll do like a legacy game special at some point, and we can, plus they're riddled with spoilers, so I didn't want to go into them, but yeah, that's awesome. And we got to get back into our legacy game, Ryan.
Oh, Rise of Queensdale.
Rise of Queensdale, yeah.
And we need to get back into Clank Legacy with Norm and our other group there.
Ever.
So,
absolutely. Cool.
Damn you, COVID.
Yeah. Well, my last one is, and I mean, it's kind of a heavy one, but it's considering the context of experience. It's something that I'm totally willing to share. And I haven't really talked about this at all with anybody, let alone on a podcast. But this one's Nemo's War during my son's bone marrow transplant. Now, to understand quickly the context, my son Daniel has been challenged with some health issues in his life since about, I'd say about the last 8 years now, 8 or 9 years. And so we've been on a bit of a journey. And what I've learned is to find, and I'm going to read straight from my notes because then I'm not messing things up. I've learned to find respite in the board games that I own and play and the people that I share them with. And I found that board games give me the capacity to step away from the heavy reality that I was and probably still am dealing with in regards to Daniel's. Currently, let's just, not cliffhanger, but he's awesome health. He was first diagnosed when he was in grade 1. He's going into grade 10. And come October, he will be 2 years past his bone marrow transplant. So let's not have heavy note to continue this dialogue here about Nemo's War, but yay! So we're on the happy side right now. So the tangent here, I think what I want to try to connect and make not real but relevant for a lot of people is. So right now, Ryan mentioned the pandemic and this COVID thing, and it's flipped the table on everybody's reality and everybody's lives. And it's moved the lens a little over to mental health because this isolation and social distancing, those are pretty heavy things to deal with that a lot of people haven't had to deal with at all, much alone, at this capacity. And all of a sudden it's like zeros and ones. It wasn't like this, and then now it's like this, and we all have to change our lives immediately. And just that transition can put people off, on their heels a little bit. So what I found is that if when you want to take care of somebody, you got to learn to take care of yourself, and that comes with making sure you're sleeping and you're eating and drinking lots of water. And for me, the formula was perfectly balanced when I had board games there because and it was Nemo's War during this where either in Daniel's room in the hospital or when he was in recovery at Ronald McDonald House, I'd have this game set up because I mean, first of all, it's a great solo game. There's so many different variations on it that you can play on, so many different end of game objectives you can play towards. But I think what this did for me, what a lot of people need to do nowadays is find something that you can allow your brain to have some respite. Because if we're always behaving in such kind of, if we're always hitting the fight or flight mechanism and we're always pressing our thumb on that adrenaline button, a speaker that we just heard at a teacher conference said that your body keeps score, right? So if you're stressed out and you got back tension, and your body's going to keep score, it's going to physically have a resounding impact. So bringing it back to the board games, I found that playing Nemo's War during this recovery phase of Daniel helped me find this whole ability to step away. I would be so engrossed in the game and the decisions necessary to be made. How much do I push my crew? How much do I push my ship? How much do I push Nemo when I'm rolling the dice on some events? What kind of chances am I going to take? What kind of outcomes are going to happen? There's enough randomness that made it exciting for me, but not too much randomness that I thought I might as well just be playing snakes and ladders, right? But I think Nemo's War, each game I played gave me the ability to hit pause button on my life in my brain that was running overtime and stressed out. The challenges that happened in every scenario and every circumstance gave me the opportunity to have a chance to catch a breath, I guess. And it was this game that basically helped me. And I mean, the last line I put there, it was like, is the board game that helped me navigate through a tough, dark time. Nemo's War pun, water vessel. Come on. Can't be too serious all the time. Got to end on a bad dad joke. But yeah, this Nemo's War, the board games in general have been such a, and I don't know how it is with you guys at all, because a lot of people don't talk much about what I just talked about. So I for me, board games is part of I call it my cardboard therapy, right?
You guys can't see me right now, but I'm not crying, you're crying type thing.
Yeah. No,
it's such a neat story, Norman. I applaud you for being able to actually come out here and share it, because it is incredible. And I think you're not alone in this type of thought. I think a lot of people, that's kind of like why they play some of these games, and that's why they play like Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing games and things,
or go golfing. I mean, I get it when people are so zoned into it's meditation, and for me, I found it in board games. Yeah.
I think it's a more common thought than you probably think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes to show you how much you don't necessarily know how much something can mean to somebody else, right? Because you don't let that on, and yeah, that's awesome, Norm.
Cool. Yeah. No, I didn't want this to be a downer at all. I just wanted this to be sort of like a kind of pick me up for anybody who is like, yeah, just dig into your hobby and just like geek out, man. Just lose yourself in it sometimes, because there's benefit to it. And the community. I mean, that's part of this whole, well, except for when you do something like that to Adam, I don't know how you could base much community off of behavior like that, man.
Oh my God.
So on that note, I'd like to thank you guys for continuing right to the end. We got to the end. I'm your host, Norm, who would never do something like that. Adam.
I am backstabbing betrayal, Ryan. Sorry, Adam.
And I'm Ian. And I swear that it was a 1, not a 7.
Okay. And we'll catch you later. This has been an episode of Cardboard Conjecture, and we are Bridge City Board Gamers. And you can find us on Facebook at Bridge City Board Gamers Saskatoon. You can find us on YouTube, Bridge City Board Gamers. We are also on Twitter at BC Board Gamers. And of course, Board Game Geek Guild number 3039.